Come on, it's broken! It's broken!
maybe the next game we can play at is Goat Simulator.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to NFR. And it's a Tuesday night. We usually take a night off at NFR on a Tuesday night. Tonight we've got something different. Of course, the league versus league. It's gonna be something different. We've got 3 rounds of league versus league. This is the opener in Las Vegas. Then we head to Zandvoort and finish things off in Jeddah. Now it's a championship with a little bit of a difference. There is no individual championship. These drivers are not going up against each other necessarily. And then as far as the team championship goes, it's not those manufacturers you see on screen that are going out for points. Some of those teams will be linked up. All of those teams will be linked up. So essentially 5 teams. Those are your 5 different leagues. Each league represented by 4 drivers. SAFRL represented by McLaren and the Sauber team. Then DRS, easy to remember, they're in the Red Bulls and RBs. Then we've got LSA in the Alpine and the Williams. JPR in the Ferrari and the Haas. And then SKR, they're going to be in the Aston Martin and the Mercedes. One thing to remember on the night, if the driver finishes on the podium, you're not going to see him in round 2. Everyone who finishes on the podium tonight has to skip a round. You can't spam Mercedes in the comment section because Mercedes isn't the manufacturer tonight. The manufacturer is technically, well, Mercedes is under SKR, so the manufacturer would be SKR. Don't spam my chat with Mercedes. Spam it with anything else, it's fine. Of course, those are the key differences. 4 of the fastest drivers from 5 different leagues joining for 3 rounds. Jeddah and Vegas, round 1 and 3, both very quick street circuits. And then in the middle there, round 2, something different. 1 or 2 drivers in the field who will be expecting to finish on the podium. They already probably had that in their strategy to miss Zandvoort. Some drivers will be picked to drive on the day because they feel stronger at a particular circuit. Most of the teams having, I think, 8 drivers to choose from. Now the first lap times coming in. France the quickest, then Convoy just up the road, just a 1/10 of a second. Then we've got, well, I don't know that name. Finally, a name I haven't commentated on. Is that Ilov? I think it's Ilov. Correct me if I'm wrong. Jeddah goes into provisional pole. Time's now starting to come in. Of course, the kick, Sauber. Remember, that is SAFRL. They are in the green and papaya liveried cars. Then we have 3 LSA drivers in P2, 3 and 4. It's going to be difficult for me to remember these teams. This is Andre. He's had his first run. It was a 32.4, good enough for P6. That is the... I'm correct in saying that. Ooh, these teams are going to confuse me. I'll get it right by round 3, I promise. So far out front, we've got Cheddar followed by Convoy, France, Elov. Then we've got Levy, Andre, It's Free, Rota, Divad, Mr. Rem, Zero to Cool. And we've got Martin, I think that's Boneless, Boinkies, Acid Milk, Skull, Dan Ritfeld. And then Osman. Two of the drivers in the field yet to set their lap. One of them is Triple, he's on an out lap. Pantry Star, the other one. He is on his first quick lap attempt. And every time I look at that track map, I see an upside down pig. Very quick sector 2 by Pantry Star, goes purple, fastest of all in sector 2. Let's see what he can do with the rest of the lap. The rest of the lap is pretty much flat out. A few corners you've got to get right. Pantry Star goes over the line. We saw the purple sector 2. Now what has he done with the rest of the lap? Just throws the car into that final left-hander. Triple. The last man looking for a lap time now. Cheddar out front. Got to try and remember these teams again. So far the order is, I believe it's SAFRL, followed by 3 DRS cars. Then we have the first of the JPR cars in the Haas, that is Levy. Am I correct? I think I'm correct. A lot of cars now in the pits, a few cars on out laps. This is one of the 2 Ferraris. Of course, the 2 Ferraris, the 2 Haas cars, that is JPR. 2 Aston Martins, 2 Mercedes, that is SKR. The Alpine and the Williams, that's LSA. And the McLaren, the Sauber, SAFRL. And the easiest one to remember, DRS, the Red Bulls and the RBs. Of course, another thing I haven't mentioned is probably in the race you're going to see racing that is somewhat different. Might have teams letting their opponents go by a lot easier. Remember, you're not fighting your teammate. Each team has 4 drivers. You don't want to be slowing down your teammate. You don't want to be fighting your teammate. If your teammate's behind and clearly faster, you need to play the team game. There is no individual championship. Out front, still Cheddar. SAFRL, followed by the 3 DRS cars, 2 Williams and the Alpine. Then SKR up into P5 with triple. Libby the first of the JPR cars in P6. Then the next SKR runner down in P7. It's Ferrari, SAFRL. Good mix of drivers. Out of the 5 leagues we've seen so far, no one's showing complete dominance. Shows the quality of drivers across all 5 of these leagues. Of course, 3 of these leagues are broadcast on this channel 4 times a week. As for JPR, I drive there. And LSA, well, we've had 1 or 2 events with them too. Busy stream, so welcome to everyone. Glad you've joined us. Of course, if it's your first time to the channel, hope you enjoy. Remember to subscribe, remember to like the video. Of course, if you're a returning viewer, it's going to be more of the same. Just me getting a little bit more mixed up between the teams. First of the 2 Williams, just ahead of his teammate France. Remember, that's not his only teammate. The 2 Alpines are also his teammate. It's going to get a little confusing by the time we get to the 3rd race and the championship is over. That's probably when I'll finally learn. France comes into the pits, Convoy behind him out on circuit. Just taking a lot of that chicane. Can't be too greedy. It's a long race circuit. Takes you a while to get around here. Very easy to invalidate your laps. Could be something we see in the race. Lots of penalties. It's going to be a busy racetrack. Not only is it going to be a busy racetrack, all of these drivers are quick. All of them are quick. So the field's not just going to naturally spread out over time. I expect these guys to be able to match each other. They're going to have different pockets of DRS battles throughout. But when we do have 20 cars in the field, it's always spectacular to see. That's what the spectators want to see. But that's, I dare say it, that's when you're at the most risk of safety cars. Relying on 20 drivers not making any mistakes around a circuit that has very close barriers and very high speeds. Last night on this channel we had a race with a very low turnout and we still got a safety car. So 20 drivers in the field, that possibility definitely goes up. You can see Triple there just getting as close to the wall as he can using all of the racetrack. You see how much work these drivers are having to do. It's not easy. The field is so close together. A decent lap isn't going to be enough. It needs to be a great one. Top 4 all in the pits. Then we've got Triple in P5, followed by Levy in the pits. It's Ferrari in the pits. And we have Boinkies, the top DRS driver so far, currently in P8. Remember, this is just the short quali session, so nothing after this, no eliminations. We're going to go into the race. If you haven't got this qualifying session right, giving yourself a handful. Not many drivers out on track. Means all of these drivers are probably going to come out at give or take the same time. Hopefully we don't have a lot of impeding on that final lap. Everybody goes out so close together. It's really up to you to have a look at that track map. Make sure you don't get too close to anyone and sort of impede yourself. This is Pantry Star. It's got a current best of a 133.3. Just 3,000ths of a second away from Dan Redfeld in P19. So you see how close the lap times are all the way down the field. Pantry Star looking for an improvement. He finds an improvement, goes from P20 up into P11, just outside the top 10. Now Dan Redfeld, the man who claims P20. This is Cheddar. It's out on track. This is an outlap, and now you can just see what I was talking about. It's a busy racetrack. So important to find a space on the racetrack where you're comfortable. Don't want to get too close to somebody. If that somebody makes a mistake right in front of you, well, your lap is gone as well. Guys are asking about weather conditions. Fortunately, that's one thing I can't help you with. The game does not provide the spectator mode with any sort of weather prediction. So if anyone in the comment section is a driver or is in contact with one of the drivers, let me know. We should expect anything, but rain in the Nevada desert, that would be a thing. Cheddar still the quickest, France still P2, Convoy still P3. Those lap times haven't changed since the beginning of the session. This is Acid Milk, now the new top JPR driver, now up into P5. We have the top LSA drivers in P4 and 6. Nope, I mixed that up. This is going to be complicated. Mercedes and Aston Martin are one team. There we go. At the front, it's still Cheddar. Surprisingly, those lap times they put in initially, those are still their best lap times. The order has not changed. Just shows you the difference here tonight. Usually we see a bit of sandbagging, especially on that initial run. But there's been no time for that this evening. Everybody jumping on those timing sheets, making an impression from their first run to their last. So important. Remember, you're not driving for yourself, you're driving as a team of 4 drivers. 5 teams, 4 drivers each, no individual championship. And this is the first round of 3. Spike's just giving confirmation that it won't be raining in the Nevada desert. Although that could spice things up on what is a very quick race circuit. So that is the end of qualifying. We're just going to wait for the official results to come up. Sometimes I read out that order and then it's completely wrong. Okay, now we're going to try and make sense of these results. So Cheddar in the Salva, that's going to be SAFRL on pole position, then he's followed by France in the Williams. We've got Elau in P3, then the other Williams in P4, all of those cars, LSA cars. They're followed by Convoy, Triple, Acid Milk, Levy, Ferree, Andre, Mr. Rem, Boinkies, Rota, Zero to Cool, Martin, Boinkies, Pantry Star. I've run out of time. Can you believe it? I apologize if you were in the last 5 drivers. I'm not used to that. 20 in a field and trying to figure out who's in what team. Of course, now we look at the empty pit lane. This will be the final opportunity now for the drivers to do any touch-ups to their strategies. What tires are they going to be starting on? How far into the race are they going to be starting on? And of course, there's this different aspect of 4 cars having to work together to get the most amount of points on the night, and it's got nothing to do with the individual points. There are no individual points. Lots of support in the comment section. I have to mention it for SKR. It's been pretty overwhelming. Some of the other leagues have tried to throw their name in there, and they've pretty much disappeared into the comment section. So the SKR support definitely out in full force. We've got the dual green lights. I'm sure you know that means we're off for a formation lap. It's going to give everybody one opportunity to get around here, get some tire temperature, some brake temperature. Important on a track with this many straights. Quickly bring up your tire screen just so you can have a look at who's doing what. Nobody venturing off on the soft compound. Looks like the entire field is a mix of mediums and hards. A little bit more than medium, a little bit more medium than hard, but no softs to be seen. How many cars do we have on the hard compound? It's 6 cars on the hard compound. 3 of those cars are teammates. Obviously these teams will be in communication with each other, probably separate lobbies, so it's not too noisy, just you and your teammates. So everyone knows what the plan is. Should be no battling between the teammates. They need to work together. It's all about maximizing the points, getting as many cars as possible into that top 10. But remember, if you're using your race squad tonight and they all get on the podium, well, you need to find another 3 drivers for next week. It means we can't have a driver who's going to dominate and win all 3 races, get on the podium. You're rewarded by being suspended from the team for a week. Support for DRS, SKR, JPR. And now we form up on the grid with a terrible camera angle. I do apologize, but that is the game that decides that for me. So can we see the red lights? I'm not sure we can. Hopefully we get a view of the red lights. We will get a run of them coming down into turn 1. You just got to be patient till this camera decides to flip. Well, we can hear the red lights, and there they are, 5 of them. And when they go out, it's going to be 20 drivers heading off into turn 1 here in Las Vegas. And hopefully it's a clean turn 1. Into the lead, stays in the lead, started in P1, still in P1, that is Cheddar. Then we've got, is that Hello? Somebody needs to tell me how to pronounce that name. Hello in P2, then we've got Convoy P3, then we've got Triple in P4, Acid Milk, top of the JPR drivers in P5, then we've got the Williams. Williams is obviously LSA, the top LSA driver, up in P3, so the pair of Williams 3rd and 6th. Ah yes, that's another way to remember it. The bad cars are one team. Sorry, but yes, the Alpine and the Williams, the bad cars. Trying to pair these up in my head. Still Cheddar out front. The gap is 1.3 seconds, so becoming a pretty big gap early on. Then we got Allow in P2, followed by Convoy, followed by Triple. Gaps look like they're opening up, but they're really not. Everyone's within DRS. It's just such a quick race circuit. Might look like you're falling out of DRS, but you get one DRS zone and you come right back into it. This is the view from Acid Milk. It's a very high pressure race. Don't just have a couple of quick drivers at the front, a couple of slower drivers towards the rear. This is an entirely quick field. Everybody in this field has won races at some stage. Everybody 5 leagues sending their best. Obviously a few drivers also on the teams as reserves. We haven't seen those names here tonight, but we may see a few of them in round 2 as mentioned. If you're a podium sitter, you will not be at Zandvoort, but every team does have a further 4 drivers as reserve. So we may see a few more new names next week, but for now, still Cheddar out front. He's still growing the gap to 1.9 seconds. Race is going his way for now. Convoy, he's now in P2 in the Williams. Remember, the Williams and the Alpines, those two are paired up. And now everybody just going past. I wonder, is this damage? Let's try and get a better view of it. Well, we're not getting a much better view of it. Can we see the front wing of that car, please? Now the game's just being stubborn. Now where is that car? Is there damage to it? Just going really down the field, down to P6. That's what happens when there's so many quick drivers behind you. Cheddar leads the way, 2.1 seconds. Convoy now in P2. He's got clean air, and he's going to do everything he can to reel in the kick before it disappears up the road. Do I call it a kick? Do I call it a salva? I don't know. In 2026, I'll get to call it an Audi. Cheddar leads the way, Convoy P2, and that gap is starting to come down. So Convoy, you see, he's just done the quickest lap there. Unfortunately, the logo's just blocking out the timing sheets. I do apologize. Can reposition those a little better for round 2. Cheddar out front, Convoy, the gap has come down. We saw the gap go up to approximately 2.1 seconds. Now it's come back down to 1.7. Convoy is followed by France, so he does have one of his teammates right behind him. Then Triple in P4. That is the top SKR performer on the night so far. One of the drivers on mediums, majority of the drivers on mediums. We do have these 6 runners on the hard compound. two of them at the front. Convoy and France, those two teammates, they've taken what appears to be the exact same strategy. France a further 2.1 seconds down the road, so Williams aren't too close together. They both have clean air, and they can try and affect this gap to the Sauber, but I wonder if there was some sort of a mistake. Don't know if there was some sort of a mistake, but Cheddar has opened up the gap again, and he's opened up the gap more than he's opened it up at any point this evening. 2.6 seconds now the gap, so I wonder if there was some sort of a mistake from the Williams. Doesn't appear like the gap between Convoy and France has changed, so I think that was maybe just Cheddar reacting to that gap coming down. We have the Alpine that was a little bit higher up in the standings in the early stages of the race, but had some misfortune. Now on a bit of a recovery drive, starting to attack the rear of the Ferrari. That's Acid Milk, one of the JPR drivers. Then the SKR team, Triple, followed by SKR. Actually, they're both SKR. Very interesting stuff. I'll get it right eventually. At the rear of the field, we have the only man with a penalty. Levy has picked up a penalty at some point. Just want to have a look if that is a track infringement or a... It's not a track infringement. It's a pit infringement. Of course, if you're familiar with F124 over the last couple of games, it's no longer a 5-second penalty. It's immediately a 10-second penalty. So that means he's had to make an early pit stop, most likely for some sort of damage. He's come into the pits, picked up a further 10 seconds, and that'll be served at his next pit stop. Or if miraculously he didn't pit again, it would be added on to his race time. But surely not. These are the early stages. Cheddar 2.7 seconds. That gap was stabilizing 1.7. Looked like Convoy was just starting to catch him up. Then Cheddar reacted, opened the gap up by a second. Now it's just sitting at that 2.7 second mark. Almost looks like Cheddar is managing his pace at this stage. Remember, he's on the medium. Convoy and France just behind him, they're on the hard. So that medium will go off first. Means the track will come to the hard runners. Have a caution up on our screens. Quickly look to the track map, but don't see any stationary cars, and the caution disappears. Cheddar leads, Convoy, France, P2. That would be a double podium for LSA. Remember, in the event that stayed the same at the end of the race, means LSA would lose two of their drivers for Zandvoort. Neither Convoy or France would be able to take part next week. Of course, that goes for the winner as well, all three on the podium. No race next week. This is Zilao in P4. We saw how quick he was early on in the race, so he's definitely got pace. Just made a mistake early on, or made contact. We didn't really get to see it. He went down the field, but I think he's definitely got the pace to catch back up, get to those Williams. Of course, the two Williams ahead of him are his teammates, so he's going to have to keep that in mind. Two Williams, the two Alpines. That is one team. That is Team LSA. But for the time being, at the front, it's SAFRL. We have Andre further back in P6, followed by Ferrari, another one of the SAFRL drivers. starting to remember which teams are linked to which teams. Now I just need to remember which leagues represent those teams. 2 Kick Salbers, 2 McLarens, so the red and green, that is SAFRL. And for now, it looks like top points for SAFRL because Cheddar has this very much under control. The gap now 2.9 seconds, and the Williams, they've just traded places. Remember, these two, they will not be fighting for position. This will be a team game. So the drivers will be in contact. If one is feeling like he is quicker, they will trade places. There won't be battles between teammates. It's going to be a race. They need to work together in order to catch up to Cheddar. The gap getting a little bit too big, getting a little bit too uncomfortable. Then we've got Allow in P4, the third. The third of those LSA cars. So we've got 3 LSA cars up in the top 4. Then we have the top SKR driver so far, Triple. He was in P4 earlier on, now in P5. P6 rather. Of course, now let me know in the comment section, it is a long racetrack, so what sort of tyre usage can we expect from the medium tyres? When will these first lot of drivers start coming in? Obviously the pit window will be something that starts to enter the drivers' minds as we start to get closer and closer to halfway race distance. Most of those drivers on the medium tyres, you can expect all of those medium tyres to come in first. Then the hard runners are going to be going a little later on into the race, playing a different game. Between laps 10, I think that 10 on the mediums, 15 on the hards. I think I'm reading that correctly. So that means there's not going to be too much more time for the medium runners. If the mediums do start going off by lap 10, then means they got 2 more laps to go on this tyre. We're going to see a bunch of cars pitting on lap 11. Of course, the drivers that are running line astern with their teammate just need to remember about double stacking. Don't see too many drivers in the field that are going to have to worry about that, except for these two, the 2 Williams. They're pretty close together, 7/10 of a second separate the two, and they're on the same strategy. So they're going to have to decide, do they open up the gap a little bit in order to avoid the double stack, or are they simply going to pit on different laps? And if so, who gets to pit first? Surely there'll be an undercut. For the man at the front, maybe just starting to feel the effects of those mediums falling off. The gap is starting to fall. We saw it up at 2.7 seconds, now 2 seconds. So he's lost 7/10 somewhere along the way, and it was either a mistake or it's the effects of those mediums. The track now just coming to the hard runners. Mediums round about lap 12, hards round about lap 14. So we'll have to wait and see. A few different predictions. Of course, it looks like it will probably be a simple one-stop race if everything goes according to plan and we don't get any stoppages. Just 1 or 2 drivers have had to make pit stops they didn't want to make. A little bit of damage. they'd be hoping for a safety car so they could come back and just close that gap, catch the queue, but it hasn't happened so far. Everyone behaving themselves. Started with 20 drivers, we still have 20 drivers. Gotta say, that's pretty impressive. Another thing that's impressive, no one in the field has a penalty. Of course, Lebby had a penalty earlier on, but he seems to have visited the pits once more. So he has cleared that penalty. Of course, you go in, the mechanics aren't allowed to touch the car for 10 seconds. Making what should be a very quick park and go into quite a lengthy experience. Cheddar still out front, but now the gap is visual. You can see it. It's 7/10 of a second, and it's those tires. Some of you guys were saying lap 12, some of you guys were saying lap 10, and I think it's looking more like lap 10. Cheddar just losing a lot of time. Either he's making mistakes or it's those mediums. Remember, now things will switch just as some drivers have the faster compound, or started rather on the faster compound. Towards the end of the race, it'll be the two Williams that are running on the medium. The advantage here is they'll also be able to see when do the medium runners pit, get a good idea of how deep they need to go on these hards. This is Cheddar, man who started on pole, led the race throughout. He's now come into the pits. Those tyres were definitely falling off, because it looks like all the medium runners are coming in. All the yellow tyres are disappearing from our screen one by one. Now it's the two LSA drivers out front. It's actually an LSA 123. France, Carnboy and Elau doing a fantastic job for the LSA team so far. But Cheddar, he's already made a pit stop. Those cars in front of him, no pit stop. He's going to have the fresh hard tyres. The three ahead of him, they're going to have the hard tyres they started the race on. So same compound, but advantage Cheddar. Should have the superior grip. The gap is 9.8 seconds. And if it continues to fall at the rate that it is, the guys that stayed out on hards, they may land up regretting the strategy of starting on the hards, because it just looks like Cheddar is closing up to the top three, which is not a good idea, which is not a good thing for the top three to hear. Just 9.8 seconds, 9.7. You can see the tenths falling off. So there's a big advantage over a brand new set of hards and a 12 lap set of hards. Was that a tap of the wall? Was that just a connection giving us a fright? Looked like a car bounced off the wall there for a moment. It's Ferrari. Team SAFRL. Currently in P6. Then we've got two SAFRL cars. It's actually DRS 123. Am I getting this right? And then SAFRL 4, 5 and 6. Of course, we're in the middle of a pit window, so a lot of this field's sort of out of sync. Some of the drivers have pit, some of the drivers yet to pit, and when they do, we will be seeing big changes. But as things stand, it's the LSA team taking up the entire podium. Of course, if they were to finish this way, well, they'd lose half their team. This is Cheddar. I was telling you that the gap was coming down. It was in that 9 seconds range. Well, we didn't even see it go through the 8-second range, and now it's at 7.5 seconds. So he's closing up to the leaders on those new tyres. The difference now is France, Convoy, Allow, they're going to come into the pits. They're going to put on a set of mediums. So while they will come out behind Cheddar, they should have that tyre advantage to come back at the Sauber that they didn't have at the start, because the Sauber was the one with the advantage. So we could see a second stint to the race. That looks very different from the first stint. Some drivers getting the tyre advantage at the start of the race. Some drivers are going to get the tyre advantage at the end of the race. Of course, if you do finish on the softer compound at the end of the race, you also have the advantage of a very light car. Pick up that extra bonus point for fastest lap. Of course, if you're in the top 10, you get that extra point for fastest lap in the race. That'll not go to you, but does go towards the team. I don't know, I should probably check that up before announcing it. Still France and Convoy on the hards. When are they going to pit? They're very close together. Surely they can't pit on the same lap. One of those cars will be at a serious disadvantage. Well, none of them are pitting right now. They carry on the two Williams. They're very close together, just 3/10 between the two, just towing each other around the race circuit. France versus Convoy, then Allow in P3. So while it is a LSA top 3, that driver in P3 is 7 seconds adrift from his two teammates. Then Cheddar, Pantry Star, and it's Ferrari, SAFRL 4, 5 and 6. Then we have the first of the SKR drivers in P7, that is Andre, another LSA driver. Boinkies down in P8. Triple P9, Mr. M in P10. Of course, just the top 10 scoring points. Want to get as many of your cars in the top 10. You've got 4 of them. You don't want to have any retirements. You want everybody finishing the race, getting every single available point. Remember, just 3 rounds. If you have one particularly bad round with 3 or maybe all of your drivers retire in the same race, well, potentially your League v League challenge may come to an end. So, very important. All 4 drivers need to finish the race. As many of those 4 drivers in the pits, in the top 10 rather, as possible. We've got a ghosting. What is that? That is a Mercedes-Benz. I think that is triple. It is triple. So I think he's been disconnected. It's no longer in that car. Hopefully he can get back in that car. Keep our eyes on the Mercedes if it continues to drop down the field. For now it's France, followed by Allow. That means the Williams of Convoy has made his pit stop. Hasn't actually lost the amount of time I thought he would. He's 5 seconds, give or take, behind Cheddar in P3. This time around, though, he's going to have the tyres to attack Cheddar. Remember, he still needs to make those mediums last. He did go deep enough into the race that he's only going to have to do about 9 laps on those medium tyres, so he's not going to have to stretch them as far as we saw the Williams. In fact, France is still out on track. His teammates made a pit stop. He's going to make the pit stop second. We saw how close those Williams were. We'll see how close they are after the pit stop. That should give you a very good idea of the power of the undercut on just 1 lap. Does he come into the pits? Yes, he does. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Box, box, box. No, stay out. Box, box, box. What is going on? Virtual safety car. France. Wasn't sure if he was going into the pits or not. Now with the virtual safety car, he's probably wishing he did dive into the pits. What was the trigger? I didn't really see what the trigger of the virtual safety car was. I wonder if it was just him going over the safety car entrance But while he was going over the safety car entrance, deciding if he's going to pit or not, he decided to get back on track at the last moment. And almost at exactly the same moment, we got a virtual safety car. I think I see a car stationary. No, it's not. It's moving. So everybody is on the move, just the virtual safety car, so not a full safety car. Means the entire field is not going to be able to close up, and well, we don't need to speak about it anymore because we're back underway. France out front, Cheddar P2, and that gap is 12.2 seconds. Now France, he had an interesting entry there to the pit lane, thought he was going to pit, then decided not to. Then the virtual came out. Actually would have been a perfect time to go into the pits as the virtual safety car got triggered. But he decided to stay out on track, and I think that will have cost him a lot of time. He's coming into the pits now, but I think that definitely is going to put a bit of a dampener on his race. Cheddar will retake the lead of the race as a result. He started on pole position, led the first stint of the race till he pit, gave the lead to the two DRS drivers. Now he's reclaimed the lead back at the front. Back at the front for SAFRL, picking up the full allotment of points. Just a few laps to go. Got to keep that car in a straight line. And specifically on this channel, we've seen it more than once. Guys out front in Vegas making silly mistakes in the closing laps of the race. In fact, I've seen a leader 14 seconds in the lead crash out of the lead of the race at this circuit on the final lap. Got to keep your concentration. Cheddar still leads, then it's Convoy, then it's France. Williams have actually stayed pretty close together. Thought Convoy would have lost a lot more time than that, but he's been able to stay with his teammate. Then the other DRS car, the Alpine of Villau. Then we've got the two SAFRL cars. It's Ferrari, Mr. Rem, the two McLarens. Then the first of the JPR cars, Acid Milk in P7. Then back to SAFRL. See, I'm finally starting to get it. In P8. Then we've got SKR in P9. And of course the easiest one to remember, who's out front? Cheddar's out front. What is the gap? The gap is 5.5 seconds. He's got the hard tyre. Convoy and France behind him, they'll have the medium tyre, and not only will they have the advantage on the compound, they're also going to have an advantage on the age of the compound. Cheddar has 7-lap-old hards, Convoy 3-lap-old mediums, France just 1 lap on his mediums. So France looking like he's in a strong position. If he is quicker than his teammate, Convoy will get out of the way. Don't expect any battling between the two Williams. As for the Alpine, down in P4. LSA, 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 P2, P3, P4. I believe that is the most points for a team on the evening if things stay the same. Lap 19 of 25. We're almost out of safety car territory, and somehow we've held on to all 20 drivers. I think this goes to show the class of the field. So easy to make mistakes in Vegas. We've seen crashes in Vegas so many times, so many safety cars. But on lap 20 of 25, still all 20 cars in the race. Just 2 of the cars have penalties next to their name, so really shows clean driving all round. 0 to cool with 3 seconds next to his name. Divan with 6 seconds next to his name. Everybody else in the field clear of penalties. It's something that's really important in these races where the field can get so close together, is to stay out of that penalties column. It's going to be the worst feeling if it costs you a race, or if it costs you that final points position in P10. Penalty can be quite harsh. While people say the penalties on this game are harsh, George Russell just lost the race because of 1.5 kilos. Of course, if there were no penalties for track limits, I assure you, these guys would find some very interesting racing lines. Cheddar out front. Gap is falling. Gap was 5.5 seconds. Gap is now 4.5 seconds. And France is bringing his teammate with him, so those Williams aren't getting further apart. They are staying together, but the gap between Cheddar and the two Williams is coming down. They should be able to work together, maybe slingshot past each other, use each other in DRS, tow each other around, try catch up to the Sauber. And at the same time, they need to try and manage those tyres. They don't need the tyres falling apart at the very end. Definitely well done to everybody to still have 20 drivers in the field. I hope I didn't curse anything. We just saw a caution on our screens. But seems like everybody's on the move. I don't see any stationary cars. So lap 21 of 25. Still have the 20 drivers in the field. Cheddar out front, 3.8 seconds. So gap continues to fall. France and Convoy applying the pressure. Team LSA 2 and 3. It's not good enough. They want to get up the road. They want to catch that sole SAFRL car out front. Shane, they're in the comments section. Shane, when do we see you on track? Are you going to be on track, Zandvoort? Of course, if you are on track at Zandvoort and you get a podium, then you're only going to get one appearance in this league. Welcome to Henno as well. Didn't know you were here. Of course, if you haven't said anything, say hello there in the comment section so I know you're here. Cheddar leads the way from France and Convoy. Those two continue to catch. That gap has just, it's still coming down, but it's just slowed down a little at the rate that it's coming down. 3.3 seconds. Medium still a far away from falling off. France just has 4 laps on those mediums. His teammate has 6 laps on the mediums. Lots of SKR support in the chat, as we've had since before the race even began. Of course, the SKR team represented by the Aston Martins and the Mercedes. So the top of those cars currently would be, am I reading that correctly? It's Divan in P9. Got a caution on our screens. Lap 22 of 25. Would be very late to have a breakage in the race. Hopefully everyone is on the move. Be great to finish with 20 cars. Just means I'm going to have to read that lineup very quickly. Cheddar still out front. 2 Williams still catching. 2.8 seconds. The gap still coming down quickly. Gonna allow in P4. Remember, he's on the same team as the 2 Williams drivers ahead of him, so very good evening for the LSA team. If things finish like this, they'll be able to keep allow for next week, but they're going to lose that pair of Williams drivers. Then it's Ferrari, second of the SAFRL cars. He's in P5 doing a good job. Then it's JPR in the Ferrari. Of course, the JPR is the Ferrari and the Haas team. And we've got Boinkies followed by Zero to Cool. Those are the DRS cars. The other two DRS cars in P15 and 20, the two RBs. Cheddar out front as the gap continuing to fall. Seems to have actually just stabilized on this lap. At the beginning of the lap it was 2.8 seconds, it's still 2.7. Williams need to work together if they're going to catch up to that Sauber, and once they get there they still need to make the overtake, so you can't leave it too late. It just seems like they might have. It's lap 24 of 25. Vegas always feels like a race that goes by so quickly. There was a build-up, there was anticipation for the first round of the League v League, and that has almost come to an end. We've just got 2 laps to go. Cheddar still out front, followed by France and Convoy. Gap is 2.7. The gap has stabilized there between the leaders. Then we've got it's Ferrari. Just look up and down this track list real quick, see if we have any DRS battles. We do have a few DRS battles, but most of them are outside of the top 10. Here's a DRS battle, a battle for P7. It's Divan, Zero to Cool and Boinkies. But out front on the penultimate lap, 24 of 25. He's done all the work he needed to do, kept the gap. Well, first he built the gap, kept the gap. Technically those drivers behind him were on mediums. They should have had the advantage, maybe closed up even quicker, but he managed those tyres well, and now the track will start to come to the hard runner and the advantage will start to go away from the Williams. This has worked out pretty perfectly for the Sauber driver, who's made things look pretty easy. Started in pole, led until he had to pit. After the first sequence of pit stops, retook the lead, and he's been there ever since. Final lap of the race has begun. And still a really close field. We've got a few gaps here and there, but lots of close battles still out on track. Here is Divan. Looks like he's very far behind Zero to Cool, but he's really not. That's just 0.8 of a second. Few DRS zones around this circuit, and 0.8 of a second isn't going to mean much. So still a few positions at play here. Of course, I just noticed Divan is one of the drivers with a penalty. That always hurts at the end of the race. When you're fighting for a possible position, you look at the penalty next to your name, and you know, even if you do make that overtake, you're not going to be able to hold on to that. Cheddar leads 2.4 seconds, so the gap came down really quickly until it got to the 2-second mark, and it seems like those tyres just started to fade on the pair of Williams. So tonight, on round 1 of 3, it's going to be SAFRL Cheddar P1, followed by 2 LSA drivers from the Williams team in P2 and 3. Those top 3 will not take part next week. Then the next of the best, P4, that's Allow in the Alpine, another LSA driver. Then the second of the SAFRL drivers coming over the line, it's Ferrari. And then Acid Milk, first of the JPR drivers, flying the JPR flag. And is he going to be able to hold on to the position? Yes, getting excited over ghost cars here. Why do we have 2 DNFs? We have two DNFs right at the end of the race. What happened there? Was there a collision? There was a collision. Goodness me. An Alpine and a Haas. They left it to the end. We almost finished with 20 drivers, but those two decided no. Collision on the final lap means you're going to finish with the 18 drivers. That was almost very impressive. Of course, now we'll just wait for those official results, and I'm going to have to try and get through them very quickly because there's a lot of them. Divan picks up the driver of the day. And I need to mute the game, and I've already muted it too late. But anyway, so there are your final results. Cheddar, Team SAFRL, he takes the victory, then followed by France, Conboy and Allow, all LSA drivers. Of course, those top three will take no part next week. Then we've got It's Free, SAFRL in P5, then Acid Milk, Zero to Cool, Boinkies, Pantry Star, Andre, then no points on the night. Divan, Osman, Martin, Skull, Mr. M, Dan Ritfeld, Rota, Triple M, and the two very late retirements, Levy and Boinkies. You guys let me know. There's still a few of you here watching. There's still a few of you in the comment section. Let me know if you want. Would you guys like to hear from the drivers? Should I bring the drivers into the comms box? I've got two LSA drivers, and I don't think they're as familiar with the channel as the rest of them. So don't know if they're going to be able to find their way to the cool down room. Of course, something we've introduced during the week is having a chat with the drivers after the race. But I'm not sure if we're going to be able to pull that off tonight. We will just give it 2 or 3 minutes, see how things go. Of course, if you're still watching, if you haven't hit like on the video, remember, hit like, really helps the channel, gets us more views, gets us seen on more YouTube feeds. We're just going to give it a minute or two, see if anybody decides to join the cool down room, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, so folks, looks like the guys aren't going to make it to the cool down room. I think some of those drivers just don't know about the cool down room procedure. So we'll try and get some more information out, at least to the LSA drivers, about the cool down room. So maybe we can get some interviews. We can have a bit of a chat after the race next week. Of course, this was round 1 of 3 in the League v League. What do I call it? The League v League Challenge? I don't know what to call it. Of course, SAFRL, JPR, LSA, DRS, SKR, all on one night. We've just watched round 1. We're going to be back next week, Tuesday, for round 2. That's going to be at a very different race circuit. That's going to be at Zandvoort. Of course, the top 3 from today, they're not going to be present at that race. And then for the final race, we go back to the streets, back to the high speeds, and we end it all in Saudi. I want to thank you all for watching. If it's your first time on the channel, remember to subscribe. And if you're not new to the channel, if you've been with us ever since, then you'll know we'll be streaming tomorrow night, SAFRL again, Tier 2, DRS on Thursday night, 7:30, SKR on Sunday evening at 6 o'clock. Or if you're just watching League v League, we'll be back next week, Tuesday. So everyone watching, thank you very much to all the likes, to all the views. Already 89 views on this video. So thank you to everybody. I'll be back tomorrow. And if you're not here tomorrow, I'll see you next week. Till then, cheers.